All right, welcome to 3D design. This is sort of a basic overview introduction to the 3D design course that we have here at Lassen Community College. And my name is James Kleckner, and welcome to the course. So 3D design is a really fun course. Typically, we do have it on campus, but again, because of COVID, we're going to have it all online this year. So basically, this is an introductory to studio design course based on communicating visually through practical applications of design, color, and spatial relationships and imagery in 3 dimensions. That's essentially what 3D design is all about. So this can happen in forms of sculpture, it can happen in ceramics, it can happen on paper, and it can be in the digital world. For this course, we're going to explore pretty much entirely the digital world because of our confines with the actual course. Typically, though, we do usually explore some traditional 3D design, including anamorphous and wireframe sculpture, paper book, arts manipulation, and clay. But again, because we're all online this year, we're pretty much going to stick with the digital 3D design. But these are various examples here that you can see. So we have 3D modeling, we have polygonal modeling and sculpting, texture and painting, UV maps, lighting, and compositing, simple animations, and 3D printing, which you can see at the very bottom there, an actual 3D print. So we do have a really nice 3D printer at the campus, so we'll be exploring that in the future when we get back. So again, here are a series of 3D careers that you can think about. Teacher is the #1 career that a lot of people forget, and there is a real need, especially at the secondary level and below. But even at the university level, there is a need for 3D artists and 3D instructors. So really think about that. Sculptors, of course, whether you're working with metal, wood, clay, stones, or some sort of alternative. Ceramicists, who work primarily in clay. Architects, which they are pretty much digital at this point, but they do have some people who work more traditional with architecture. And then you have 3D modeler, 3D texture artist, who does the painting of textures of 3D models. 3D rigger, who actually is involved with basically kind of sounds the way it is what it kind of sounds, which is rigging the model to make it animator friendly. And then you have the 3D animator and the 3D matte painter, which is a lot of matte painting now is in the 3D world, which are basically extensions for motion pictures, television. Yeah, and then you have 3D compositor, which compositing is a big thing, whether it's 2D or 3D. And then you have 3D lighting and 3D simulations, all kinds of effects, and the 3D world of VR, AR experiences, and movies. So we'll kind of go over some of these. We have teacher here, of course. Here we have a print shop that is actually working with traditional printmaking. But teachers are basically, the sort of foundation for a lot of programs. Again, sculptor, where you have metal, wood, clay, stone, or some sort of alternatives, as you can see on the sculpture on the right there. Ceramicist, pottery and clay. You have architect, you have the traditional and digital. So some people like to draw directly on paper still, but a lot of it is done digitally now, especially with the avid help of 3D applications. And then you have the 3D modeler, which is all-encompassing for lots of industries, whether it be for design, for film, video, multimedia, games, prototyping, etc. There's so many avenues for 3D modeling. 3D texture artists, where they actually unfold the UV maps and lay them flat. So that's essentially what's happening here. You can see on the left, the cube is being unfolded and laid out into a grid. On the right, you can see the figure on the right, and then its components of the UV on the left. And then there's a textured weapon at the bottom there from a game. The rigger has, again, the ability to rig and make things move. You can see here with the dinosaur and the dog, these little wires, and they have bones connecting parts. And then you have the animator, which actually creates key sets, frames of animation, basically, and allows to basically give the character a life, essentially. And then you have the 3D matte painter, which basically brings these elements together. There's this process called photogeometry that's very popular. It's being used quite a bit on the Mandalorian show, which is on Disney Plus, and essentially creating a image that's mapped to a to a 3D piece of geometry. And they're usually actual real photographs and just kind of mapping it to 3D geometry. That's very simplistic in some ways, but to allow you to move around and create a 3D little environment. 3D compositors basically pull it all together and make everything come together and make it as photoreal as possible. And then lighting, basically there are lighting artists that just deal with lighting. These are pipelines in the 3D world, especially in cinema and games. And then you have your sims, your simulations, fur, grass, water, fire, sand, dust, lighting effects, all these different simulations, and many more that are being created. These are essentially effects artists. And then finally you have the VR, AR devices, these experiences and movies that are coming out through Oculus, Sony PlayStation VR, and the Microsoft HoloLens example. And there's going to be, many more opportunities of exploration for VR and AR. We don't really know the limits of this sort of boundary. But that's basic overview of 3D. Again, in this course, we're going to cover pretty much a lot of stuff in Maya using 3D design. I have Maya here open. I'll just open up real quick with this little scene here. And you can see here this little spaceship that I created here. If I add some textures and some lighting here, you can kind of see it. And it even has a little bit of animation. If I hit the play button, you can kind of see what's going on here. So that's it in a nutshell for a little introduction to 3D. Until next time, see you soon. Cheers.